Devaki Paramanandam Krishna Vande Jagakaram Mukam Karti Bachalam Tangam Lagnayate Girim Chakrapatamaham Pande Paramananda Madhavam.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to reading the verses. And we'll start from verse 59, okay? अतः श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता द्वितीयाध्यायः Shankha-yogaः. So we're still reading what Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna. So here it would be Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So I'll read it once and then I'll break it apart, and then the third time we read it, we'll read it all together. Nishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rashavarjam rashopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rashavarjam rashopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rashavarjam rashopyasya param drishtva nivartate.
Okay. So I'll go phrase by phrase and let me know if you guys have any questions. So the first part is Vishaya Vinivartante. Vishaya meaning the sense objects. So like sound, touch, form, taste, smell. And then Vinivartante meaning like withdraw, turn away. So Vishaya Vinivartante would mean like sense objects, like withdraw. So they refer this, it's referring to like external withdrawal, right? And then it says Nirahara Shadehina. It's like this Nirahara is like of one who abstains, like literally meaning like without intake. And then Dehina is like the embodied being. So it means like a person who practices like restraint or abstinence. So that first part would be like for a person who restrains the senses, the sense objects fall away, right? And then Russia Virgam, Russia meaning taste, like relish, craving, and then Virgam meaning excluding, like leave out. So except for the inner taste, like desire, and then Russia Pasha, it's like even that taste of this person. So Sri Krishna is kind of now addressing the root, right? Not the symptom anymore. Like it'll make sense when I put everything together. It says, Param Drishta is like Param, the supreme, like, like the highest truth. And then Drishta, it's like having seen, like realized. And then Nivartarte, it's like completely withdraws, ceases. So it disappears entirely. So together it's like sense objects fall away from a restrained person, but the taste for them remains. So even that taste disappears, but even that taste disappears when one kind of realizes the supreme reality. Does that kind of make sense? So in your books, it for word by word, it says when a person can withdraw his senses from their objects, just I'm so sorry. This is verse 59, right? Yes. From the abstinent soul, sense objects fall away, but not the taste for them. When the supreme truth is realized, even the taste departs. Does that make sense? So it's basically like, if you want to understand it even simpler, it's like control removes action, and then realization will remove the desires. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's this verse for you guys.
Okay, so now we'll move on to verse 60. Yatato hyapi kunteya purushasya vipasritaha indriyani pramathini haranti prashabham manaha. Yatato hyapi kunteya purushasya vipasritaha indriyani pramathini haranti prashabham manaha. Yatato hi api kunteya purushasya vipasritaha indriyani pramathini haranti prashabham manaha. Okay, yes, we're on chapter 2, verse 60 right now.
Okay. Yata dohya kontera. So yatata is of one who is striving, like making the effort, right? And he is like indeed, and api is even, and konte is, of course, as we know, Sri Krishna is referring to Arjuna. So this phrase would mean, O konte, even while a person is earnestly striving, um, he then says, Purushasya vipashchitaha. Um, of a person, Purushas of a person. Purushasya is of a person, and then vipashchitaha is of one who's wise, who can discern, who's intelligent. So that part would mean even of a wise and discerning person. And then he says, Indriyani pramatini. Indriyani meaning the senses, and then pramatini is turbulent, like very violent, agitated, overpowering. So he says the senses which are forceful and disturbing, haranti, carry away, steal, like they can carry you and steal from you. And it says prashabham manaha. It's like prashabham is forcefully, so violently against like one's will, and then manaha is the mind. So together it'd be like okuntia, even while a wise person is striving, the turbulent senses can forcefully carry away the mind. Does that make sense? Any questions? No?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't get it.
Yeah. So it says, so let me just go for it together so it makes more sense. So it's like, um, O son of Kunti, right? The senses are very turbulent, right? They're always restless, kind of agitated all the time. It's saying the senses do violently draw away the mind of even a discerning person who is earnestly striving in the spiritual path. So even if you're putting in all your efforts and you're able to discern between what is right and what is wrong, the real and the unreal, and you are striving in that spiritual path, right? However, even for such a person, the senses, right, if they're not controlled and they're turbulent and restless, they can still violently like draw our mind away from the spiritual path. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to verse 61. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta Vashe hi yashendriyani tasya pragya pratisthita tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha. वाशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त आसीत् मत्परः वाशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता.
Okay. So Tani Sarvani Samyamya Yukta Asita Matparaha. So the first part, so Tani Sarvani Samyama Yukta Asita. So Tani Sarvani meaning of like all those, meaning referring to the senses, and then Samyamya meaning having restrained and regulated. And then Yukta Asita is like one who should remain steady, right? Integrated in yoga. So Sri Krishna is saying, having restrained all the senses, one should remain firmly established in a disciplined yoga. So and then he says mat parha, mat meaning me, and then parha is the highest state. So he says, with me as the supreme, like the ultimate goal. And then Vasihi Yashya Indriyani. So Vashi is like under mastery, obedient. And then Yashya is of, it's like saying of whom. And then Indriyani is like the senses. So he's saying, indeed, for the person whose senses are under mastery, he's saying, Dashya Pragna Pratishtitaha. He's saying, Pragna is like wisdom, right? Clear discernment. And then Pratishtita is like firmly established, unshaken. So he's saying that person's wisdom stands firmly established. So remember we learned the phrase stita pragya in an earlier verse. So this is the definition of stita pragya in action. So just to make the connection. So he's saying having restrained the whole verse together, having restrained all the senses, right? So you restrain your senses, and then one should remain steady in yoga. So first restrain the senses and then remain steady in yoga, but also with me, meaning Sri Krishna, like God, as the supreme goal. And indeed, the one whose senses are in control, the person's wisdom stands firmly established. Does that make sense? Yes. Questions? Okay.
I just wanted to add to say that, so from last week when we did a few of the verses, after I believe verse 54, Arjuna asked the question of what are the characteristics of a steadfast person? And Sri Krishna, in the past few verses, and even in this verse, he's been explaining what these characteristics are. So, like Adrita said, these would be the characteristics of a steadfast person in action. So withdrawing the mind from the senses and also just having them like under control and having full faith in God. So now we'll move on to verse 62. ध्यायत विषयन् पुंसा सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते सङ्गत् संजायते कामत् क्रोधोऽभिजायते ध्यायत विषयं पुंसा सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते सङ्गत् संजायते कामत् क्रोधोऽभिजायते ध्यायत विषयं पुंसा सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते सङ्गत् संजायते कामत् क्रोधोऽभिजायते.
Okay, so before we delve into this verse, um, So the few verses we did so far, so to summarize, so 59 to what, 61. So um so Sri Krishna establishes three things so far, right? So the first is only restraint, only simply having restraint is unstable, right? But because you can stop behavior, but then desire can remain, right? And then even sincere people, wise people, can be overpowered due to the senses, right? As they're turbulent. And then in the previous verse, we said the solution is anchoring the mind in the higher, like matparaha, when he says, and have it established in me. So now Sri Krishna explains what happens when that anchoring fails. So if you don't have your mind established. So I think this verse and the next verse are like, you can think of it as like a cause and effect kind of map of like mental collapse, okay? So he says dhayata vishayan pumsha. So he's saying when a person repeatedly dwells on sense objects in the mind. So it's not like a passing glance, but you're actually dwelling on it, right? Like kind of imagining, replaying, and anticipating. And he says, Sangateshu Vajayate, saying a sense of attachment to those things begins to form. So, um, the object that you're kind of dwelling upon becomes personally significant, right? So the mind starts saying, "Oh, this matters to me," and then he says, "Sangat sanjayate kama." From that attachment, desire arises. So, meaning like the urge to possess or like experience. So he's saying desire is attachment plus expectations, right? So now the object that you're wanting, it feels like a necessity, right? Not simply like, oh, I want it. And then he says, Kamat Krodha Abhichayate. When that desire is obstructed, threatened, then anger arises, right? So when a person like continues to dwell on sense objects, attachment to those objects start to arise, and then from the attachment comes desire, and from desire, when kind of obstructed or not fulfilled, then anger follows. So do you guys see how like the order of what's happening in this verse? So Sri Krishna is showing Arjuna that the fall does not begin with action. It kind of begins with like unguarded attention, right? So by the time anger appears, the damage is already done, right? So this is why Sri Krishna had earlier emphasized the the need to restrain our senses, having steady awareness, and this like higher vision. So yeah, so yeah, so and then the next verse also follows a similar logic where he kind of tells you um, the order or like the cause and effect of what happens. Does that make sense?
Okay, so we'll move on to verse 63. क्रोधाद्भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहः स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशद्बुद्धिनाश बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति क्रोधाद्भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहः स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशद्बुद्धिनाश बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति क्रोधाद्भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति.
Okay. So in the previous verse, as we said, Sri Krishna started tracing like the beginning of the inner downfall. So first dwelling on objects, then attachment, then desire, then anger, right? So now in this verse, in verse 63, he starts explaining what anger does to the inner faculties step by step, right? So he says, Krodad bhavati sammoha. So from anger arises complete delusion or confusion. So sammoha means like being like the mentally overwhelmed, or like the ability to see the consequences kind of disappears, right? So, and he says sammohat smriti vibhramaha. So from that confusion comes the distortion or the loss of memory. So in anger, you can say you sometimes forget who you are, what you know, what matters. So similarly, so the yeah, so confusion comes from the loss of memory. And then smriti bhramshad buddhinasha. From the collapse of memory comes the destruction of discernment. So buddhi is like the capacity to judge what the right from the wrong, the real from the unreal in the moment. But when the memory is gone, judgment cannot function properly. And then buddhi nasha pranashyati. So with the destruction of discernment, the person like falls. So this so together you can see kind of like the full chain here. So from anger comes delusion. From delusion, the loss of memory. And then from the loss of memory comes the destruction of discernment. And from the destruction of discernment, one is ruined. Do you guys see the it's almost like a chronological order, like cause and effect kind of chain. Do you guys see it? So this verse and the previous verse you can kind of like think as one. Or at least that's how I kind of think about it. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I have a question. I'm very curious. Uh, can you hear me? Yes? Okay. The question is for all the students. I was just listening to the verses. I think it is 62 and 63, verse 62 and 63, right? Am I right? Okay. So look at this. It's very important verses. So I'm asking a question here on the chat box so you can think of it and answer the questions. Okay, let's see. Sorry to interrupt. Okay, what is the question? Yes, Oshani. The question is, I don't know how to ask this question. Give me a couple of minutes time. You can go ahead, and then I'm trying to uh, see how to phrase the questions so everyone could understand it. Yeah. All right. Very interesting. Yeah, please go ahead, Adrita and Ashwari. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to verse 64. रागदेशवियुक्तैस्तु विषयानेन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवश्यर्विधेयात्मा प्रसादमधिगच्छति रागदेशवियुक्तैस्तु विषयानेन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवश्यर्विधेयात्मा प्रसादमधिगच्छति रागदेशवियुक्तैस्तु विषयानीन्द्रियश्चरन् आत्मवश्यर्विधेयात्मा प्रसादमधिगच्छति.
Okay. So in the previous two verses, we kind of see the downward spiral that is caused by uncontrolled attention and desire. So now we might, or Arjun might be wondering, if the senses are so dangerous, then is it inevitable that we all are kind of fall to this ruin? So here it says raga dvesha vyuktatu. So, but one who is free from attachment, raga, and aversion, dvesha. So, yeah. So, raga dvesha vyuktatu says vishayan indriya acharan. So, even while moving among sense objects through the senses, so so the person is not isolated, right? They live, they act, they see, they hear, and they participate, but without obsession. And says Atma Vashay Videyatma. So it says with the senses that are under the control of the self and the mind that is disciplined, prasadam adhigachati. So such a person attains serenity, clarity, and this inner grace. So together it says, but one who removes among sense objects with the sense under control, free from attachment and aversion, and governed by the self, they attained inner serenity or peace. Does that make sense? So in the previous verse, we kind of see the whole chain kind of coming to a collapse, but Sri Krishna now shows the way back.
So now we'll move on to verse 65. प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्नचेतसो ह्याशु बुद्धिपर्यवतिष्ठते प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्नचेतसो ह्याशु बुद्धिपर्यवतिष्ठते प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्नचेतसो ह्याशु बुद्धिपर्यवतिष्ठते.
Okay. So it says Prasade Sarvadukhanam Hanirashupajayate. So from the state of inner serenity, so prasada, all sorrows and sufferings are removed. So and this is prashanna chetasha hyashu. So for one whose mind is cheerful, clear, and serene. So it says buddhi parya vatishtate. It says wisdom becomes firmly grounded and unwavering. So again, this is as we mentioned earlier, it's a sthita pradgran action, right? So discernment is like no longer fluctuating, like decisions are clear, the perception is stable, so on. So together we can say that from inner serenity, the prasada, all suffering is removed, and for one whose mind is clear, calm, and cheerful, the wisdom becomes firmly established for them.
Now we'll go to verse 66. Nasti buddhirayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukham. Nasti buddhirayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukham. Nasti buddhirayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukham.
So it says nasti buddhi ayuktasya. So for a person whose mind is not properly focused, he says there's no steady intelligence or buddhi. So from what I understood, it's like intelligence here would mean like practical judgment, like ability to distinguish from what's right and what's wrong, and the clarity in action, right? So if the mind is scattered, then knowledge exists, but it cannot guide behavior. And then it says nacha yuktasya bhavana. So nor is there proper mindfulness or reflection for one whose mind is not integrated. So even meditation or like contemplation would fail without integration of mind and senses. This is nacha bhava yata shanti, and for one who has not developed mental focus, there's no inner peace. And then finally it says ashantasya kutashukam, and for one who is not peaceful, how can there be happiness? So Sri Krishna's logic, at least how I understood it, was kind of simple. He says no focus, no clarity. Then no clarity, then there's no peace. And if no peace, then no true happiness. So together you can kind of think about it as, for a person whose mind is not properly disciplined, there's no wisdom. And for one whose mind is not integrated, there's no proper reflection. And for one who cannot cultivate inner peace, you can kind of ask the question of how can there be any true happiness?
Very nice. So anyone has any kind of like with it, this is very important verse. So because we want all the peace, 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 peace. Every time we are chanting peace. And is this something we could buy it or grab it from the different world or different stores? So peace is very important. And what could be the main thing to start with for the peace? I think that's what it is saying. All these verses, and this is very good conclusion. Yeah. I see everyone is, as Swami Paritushtan said, it's a one-way traffic, right? One-way traffic, two cars are running only. No question, no nothing, no introductions. Students, Aditya and who else today? We don't have uh, mm, Shonot, no? Suparno, no today? Suparno is not here today? I see. Okay, okay, I posted the question. Yeah, Orgo already responded. The doors, there are multiple doors to hell. So what would be the first one? Right. Right. According to Sri Ramakrishna, there are three doors. So, and multiple doors mentioned there, even verse 62 and 63. So, yeah, please put some thoughts on those verses. whatever you have discussed. How many verses we have today to go on, to continue?
We were thinking of finishing up today. So up until 72, the last verse.
Oh, okay. So this is today. Now it's 66, right?
Yeah.
65, right? Yeah,
66 we just finished.
66 already. So, all right. So I will not interrupt it because we still have the time. So I see the first door to hell, according to the verses 62 and 63, is when you are always dwelling on sense objects. Yeah. And then Shivam said, anger. Yeah, very good. So that's the, when you said the door means prakash, revealed. What is the prakash? The desires could be seeded, right? I think I agree with both of you. But when we, yes, that said basically attachment. Let me see if anyone has to say anything. Read out the verse 62 and 62nd and 63rd. So Shivam, what would be the second one then? What would be the second door? You know, there is this, we call it
Delusion.
Saddharaja. Saddharaja periye tapar rajar kore jete hoy. So the main hell jete gele, there are many doors also, right? One by one,
Delusion.
one by one. Yeah. Shivam, yes. What is the second one? Once you pass the
Delusion.
first door, anger, then second one would be what?
Delusion.
Delusion, yes. And so moho, right? Krodad bhavati, sammoha. Okay, so what's the third one?
Well,
What are the three doors Thakur mentioned? Remember that doors to have? I think also in the chapter 16th we might have the one verse. I don't remember. It was probably 20 or 21st or yeah, 20 is the verse. Uh, so that's also. So the first thing is the anger. When anger comes,
Verse
it doesn't
20.
matter how it comes. Yes, go ahead.
It's verse 21 in chapter 16.
Oh, 21, right? What is that?
Lust, anger, and greed.
Lust, anger, and
Greed.
greed. So I think he's right about Orgo was right. The last is also, yeah, that's the first door, lust, which is kind of like dwelling on the unreal things. Okay, unreal things. Yes, sense objects or unreal things. So that's why if you dwell on the real things, that's okay. That will not take you to the hell. All right, because that will not create the anger. You will not become angry, dwelling on the reality. So what would happen? It will bring you the joy. So instead of anger, it will bring you joy. All right. So remember these three things. What are those things? Lust means attachment. Okay, attachment to the unreal objects, and then the anger. You can see the emotional kind of like the expression. You can see an emotional expression, in terms of anger, not the joy. When it comes anger means it's something has to do with the lust. Okay? Yeah. All right. I'm just trying to give some break to Oshuri and Adrita. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Verse 67, right? So Oshuri can go ahead. Yeah. You can switch over, two of you, you know. Otherwise it will be monotonous. Oh, okay, same recorder is playing. Yeah. You can go switch over. Yeah, it's a different test. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Oshuri.
Okay, so we'll do verse 67. इन्द्रियाणां हि चारातां यन्मनोनुविधीयते तदस्याहारति प्रज्ञां वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि
Ah,
इन्द्रियाणां हि चारातां
Indianam Hichanam
beautiful.
यन्मनोनुविधीयते तदस्याहारति प्रज्ञां वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि इन्द्रियाणां हि चारातां यन्मनोनुविधीयते तदस्याहारति प्रज्ञां वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि
Yeah, sorry, my camera is not working for some reason for the last week. I don't know why. Initially, I thought we are both of us getting into the same account, but it's not true. It's not working. I'm sorry. So that's why I can be shown up here. So
Okay. So, so now Sri Krishna emphasizes how the mind actually interacts with the senses, like showing why control is like necessary and essential. So he says, Indriyanam hicharatam. So the senses, by their nature, are constantly active and wandering. So senses are restless by default, right? They seek objects, stimulation, and pleasure automatically. And then says, Yan mano nubidhiyate. So, and wherever the mind follows, uncontrolled by discipline, it says, Tadasya harati prajna. So he says that mind carries away one's discernment and intelligence. So you can think of like the mind as like a steering wheel for the senses. So if the mind follows the senses blindly, it loses wisdom. So when we say the mind carries away one's discernment and intelligence, we're not saying that the wisdom is lost physically, but it is distracted and pulled in all directions, so it's unable to function properly. And it says Vayu Navam Ivam Vasi. So it says just as a strong wind blows away a boat on the water. So Sri Krishna kind of gives us an analogy, like a metaphor here, to make it clear. So he says the sense and the mind are like waves and wind. So without control, even a wise person is swept off course. So together he's saying the senses are always moving, right? First. And then he says the mind follows them. It says it carries away one's discernment and wisdom, similar to how a wind blows away a boat on the water. Does that make sense?
yeah, very nice, right? So if you look at the analogy opposite way, the mind should be senses should be controlled by the mind. When mind is following the senses, it's like remember the story about the horse rider. right? Swami Sarvapriyananda, reverse Swami Sarvapriyananda always gives the example of horse rider, right? The horse rider was running here and there, he was running this way, that way, and people are asking, where are you going? And then he said, I don't know, ask the horse. So when horse is the one kind of like running, indriyanam hi chorotang, this is the the word there, he means what? When the indriyanam means the senses kind of like rules over the mind, then the problem starts. Okay? Because senses always they are outwards. They are moving outwards. They are trying to find senses always try to find the joy, everything, collect everything information from the outside. But if you look at the joy, it's inside. So when senses rule over the, control over the mind, then you start to see the problem. Yeah, very nice. Anything else you want to add? Anyone else? Yeah, I'm trying to, act like a student and giving them some, Anyone else want to add something? Oh, Suparno is here. Wow. How are you, Suparno?
I'm fine.
You have just joined, or I missed your name?
No, I've just joined.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, yeah, good to see you. All right. Anyone else? Okay. This is something very, very important. Don't think, oh, I know how to pronounce it. I know what Aditya was talking about. I know what Ratan Uncle is talking about or Shri is talking about. It's not, we are not talking anything, we are trying to also kind of like chanting it and purifying our mind. So this is very, very important. That's why we said Sahana, Bhavatu, Sahana, Bhunaktu before we start anything, right? We seek the blessings from the God for both of us. Okay? There is only one teacher, is the Sri Krishna or Bhagavan. And we are, one is delivering, other one is listening. Who are listening, they are blessed one. Obviously, who are delivering, the blessed one. The listening one is getting more information than the delivering one, right? That's what according to Sri Ramakrishna. Yeah. When you listen, you learn. So when you deliver, you repeat whatever you have, right? So that's good. Yeah, please always try to jump in, add your the concern or whatever comments, whatever you want to add, and that will enrich the environment. Yeah, the healthy environment. Sorry, am I disturbing you guys? Yes? No? Yeah? Yeah. And also, I want to tell you, I'm just looking at your, when Ashwari is chanting, yeah, please repeat the chanting. Repeat the chanting. Yeah, repeat it. Yeah. So that's even these things. When you repeat it, the Guru Mantra, you are given only one seed. And you have to repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. Okay. So that's what it is. Yeah, these are the mantras. Yeah. All right. So we were done with the 67th. Very nice chapter, right? Yeah. I'm gaining a strength here slowly, slowly. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the next one, 68.
Okay.
Okay, let me see. Adrita, can you chant it? Okay, yeah. Let's switch it. Last three verses. So let's see. Is it okay, Adrita?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Or
It,
yeah.
यानिश सर्वभूतानां Dashyam. Oh, it's six. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was looking at 69. We're doing 68 now, right? Yes. Tasmad yasya mahabaho. Tasmad yasya mahabaho. Nigrihitani sarvasha. Indriyanindriyarthabhyas. Tasya prajna pratishtitaha. Tasmad yasya mahabaho. निगृहीतानि सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यस्तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता तस्माद्यस्य महाबाहो निगृहीतानि सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यस्तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता.
So in this verse, Sri Krishna is kind of taking whatever he has said in the previous few verses and he's trying to kind of summarize with this one concluding statement. So he starts off by saying, Tasmat Yashya, so therefore, Tasmat Yashya Mahabaho. So he's referring to Arjuna as Mahabaho. So he's saying, therefore, whose senses, Indriyani, Tasmad Yashya Mahabaho Nigritani Sarvashaha. So Sri Krishna is talking about how when the senses are completely restrained, Nigritani is restrained, and Sarvashaha completely. Indriyan Indriyarthebhyas, which means from all these sense objects. So when all the mind is pulled away from these sense objects, Tasya pragya pratishtita. That is the characteristic of the person who has their wisdom firmly set and has that one-pointedness. So previously we talked about one-pointedness and having the mind concentrated instead of having the mind scattered. So Sri Krishna is establishing that the person who has that steadfastness and that wisdom firmly set is the one who pulls the senses away from the sense objects.
Very nice. A question on the chat box. Who is the mightier, Indrajit or Jitendriyo? So try to understand these two terms. Indrajit. Have you heard about Indra? Yes? Yes? Who is this? Kanisha? Who is this guy? Guy or the male or female Indra?
He's a god.
He's a god, okay. And he's the king of the all god and goddesses, right? Right? Indra. Okay. So Indrajit means what? Jit means who conquered the Indra. Okay? Defeat the Indra. Indrajit. Alright? Indrajit. So who is the Indrajit? Anyone? Aditya, you want to tell something?
No, no.
Yeah. Anyone now? Do you any? Do you know who is Indrajit? There are many Indrajit, but at least name one.
He was the
Who?
crown prince of Lanka and the son of Ravan.
Very good, excellent. He was the crown prince of Lanka, Sri Lanka, and the son of Ravan, right? Indrajit. And his name, another name is Magonath, or there are many names he had, right? So because he conquered, he defeated Indra. And then next one is the Jitendriyo. Jitendriyo means what? You have the control of all of your senses. Who has the control over the senses? So control, basically, whose mind is controlling the senses. Not senses are controlling the mind. You see the previous verse, how they are close, right? So who is Jitendriyo? Anyone can tell? So that's why Sri Krishna, the uh, call what Arjuna as a Mahabahu. That's you are not an ordinary person. You are not like simply Indrajit. You are what? Jitendriya. And at same time, we see the Argo, who is the Jitendriya that time? If you have the Indrajit, who is the Jitendriya that time? Anyone can tell?
Would it be Ram?
Yeah, Ram, of course, he's the incarnation. Yeah, he's the Mayadish. Yes, of course. Yeah, you can say Rishikesh, Sri Krishna, Ram. These are all Ramakrishna. They don't go with the Indriyas. Okay, all right. But for like a Jivatma, he's the Paramatma. How about the Jivatma? Jivatma, when you have. Yes, go ahead. There is no fixed answer, but we are just trying to discuss it. So that was the question was raised, the concern was raised by the Vibhishan that time, that when Lakshman took the vow to kill Indrajit, okay, then Vibhishan said Indrajit was not like a ordinary warrior, okay. I don't think he was kind of like was concerned about Lakshman's ability to the defeat or kill Indrajit. Okay, because Lakshman was on fasting, he did not have the energy and all this. And Indrajit, if you look at the other side, Indrajit was kind of like Indrajit. He defeated even Indra. So he was concerned about. He raised the concern, and then Hanuman said no, because Lakshman is what? Jitendriyo. He is the Jitendriyo. He is Mahabahu. So he could do anything and everything. All right, because he is Jitendriyo. He is when you become Jitendriyo, when Indriyan Indriyarthe Bhutasho Praga Pratishtita. This one verse you could find 2 times Bhagavan said. These words. I think you did already the first time you did that, right? Yada samharate chayong kurmangan niva sarvasa indriyan indriyartebhu tusha pratishtita. Beautiful chapter, beautiful chapter. Each verse you can meditate on like hours, each verse. Okay? Yeah, I don't have the language to express this thing. But it is so beautiful. You can see that. And this verse was repeated. This fraction of the verse, this part of the verse was repeated by Sri Krishna 2 times. Until and unless you see the Jitendriya person, his wisdom was not established. He's not established in the wisdom, steady wisdom. Because we are talking about Sthita Pragya, right? So Sthita Pragya means the steady wisdom. It means wisdom is like the oil when you transfer from one bottle to the another bottle. There is no gap. Continuously, ever kind of like wisdom living in the wisdom. So the beautiful words Indriyan Indriyartibhu Tushya Pragya Pratishtita. All right. So you should become, obviously, first try to become, when you become the Jitendriyo, then you don't have to worry about conquering Indra. Anybody will be defeated because soul is the mightiest thing. When you become Jitendriyo, you will be identified with the soul. All right? Pragya will be Pratishtita. All right. Very good. Next verse. Any question, guys? Yeah? No? Yeah, please be engaged. This is very, very important. Bhagavad Gita is not like, look at here. Some of you, I know some of you are going, the winter night to go to the Bhagavad Gita class. It's not easy thing, okay? Because you love it and you develop the test on those words, the teachings, all right? So you have to show that you are interested. Eshan, are you okay? Good? Good, very good. Good boy. All right. Go ahead, next verse.
यानिशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यं जागर्ति संयमी यस्यं जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुने. So just to point out, there's Jagrati and then there's Jagrati. And so don't just mess them up, okay? When you're pronouncing it. So Yanisha Sarvabhutanam
Yani sarvabhu.
Tashyam Jagarti Sanyami Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sanisha Pashyato Mune.
Sa nisha pashyatu munehe.
यानिशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जाग्रति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुने.
So in this verse, Sri Krishna is talking about two sides, one of the general and one of the Atman consciousness of someone who understands the truth of what Sri Krishna has been talking about so far. So he starts off with Yanisha, meaning what is night, Sarva Bhutanam, for all beings. So what is night for all beings? Tashyam, in that Jagarti is awake for the Samyami, who is the self-controlled one. So here Sri Krishna is saying that what is night to all other beings, here in the meaning it says all ignorant beings, is when the sage or the Atman conscious person is awake. And then Sri Krishna says on the other side, Yashyam Jagarti Bhutani, so in what all the other beings are awake, Sa Nisha Pashyato Muni. It is different from for the sage, where they are awake during that what we consider as night. So in the meaning, it says, what is like night to all ignorant beings? To that Atman consciousness, the self-controlled sage is awake. And the sensate life to which all ignorant beings are awake, that is like night to this illumined sage. So basically here, Sri Krishna is saying how the idea of being connected to the sense objects and having the lust, anger, and greed, the three doors to hell, these are things that are in all general beings. But when the sage or the illumined person understands that these are not real, they start to understand that the Atman is the truth in all of this, and that's when they realize that pulling away from the sense objects is the best option.
Aditya, you want to add something?
I was reminded of a story. I was
I,
reading.
you see, that's what I'm just, I really want two of you mingle, so at least we will have the two voices. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
No, yeah, I was reading a story from I think it was Ranganathaji's book.
Mm.
So he was seeing how whenever civilization is at a stagnant, like at the sensory level, meaning they're like asleep, they decay and die away. So in that context, he was referring to a story of Sri Ramakrishna, in a who said in a beautiful parable, "Egi jao, egi jao." So in Bengali, "egi jao" means "age bharo," like in Hindi, like march onwards, right? So the story was of a woodcutter who used to cut wood going into a forest, a small quantity, and sell it in the market, and make his living. So he went on thus for a long time. One day, a holy man passed that way, and he saw the woodcutter doing this, and he simply told the woodcutter, "March on, igija." So at first, the woodcutter didn't take it seriously, but one day the thought came, "I am just cutting wood here. That holy man told me go onward. Why not try it?" So he went a little deeper into the forest. He got a more high quality wood there and got more money. Then he came across a copper mine and then a gold mine and finally a diamond mine. He became immensely rich. So that is Sri Ramakrishna's parable of Ekijao. So I think Ranganathanji was saying that so spiritual life is also like this. So he was like greater experiences are waiting for you out there, um, but we have to march onward and kind of become awake from this like sleeping state.
Very nice. Yeah. So, yeah. And this is actually in the Kata Upanishad you can find. It's called Charaivati. So Charaivati means egiye jao, go onward and forward until. And actually, Swamiji also echoed kind of like saying, stop not until the goal is reached, right? Or tishtata jagrato prapavaran nibodhato. So these are all from the Kathopanishad. You can find this thing, egiye jao, and until you get awakened. Uh, Swami, revered Swami Sarvaprananda, they always said when he gave the example of one of the example of Buddha when he was asked, "Who is you?" or "What is you?" He said, "I am the awakened one. I am the awakened one, awakened until and unless you got awakened." That's why Rajanikanto was very, very, in his song he said, I don't know how many of you heard this song, Jagao Potike Sheje Gume Acheton. Jagao Potike Sheje Gume Acheton. That's the meaning of the Guda Keshu. Guda Keshu means what? Awakened one. Okay, always alert. Awakened means not necessarily you are not sleeping. Okay, it's not like we are talking about the physical sleeping. It's a something kind of like you are always alert. So when you are alert, that's what it is, that you are awakened one. So you know you are alert to, you have the discerning capacity always, which is real, which is unreal. Yeah, that's what it is. Then you cannot be, and the senses cannot play, with your mind basically when you are awakened one. All right. Anyone else? Aditya, do you have to say something? You have
No.
a nice voice. Can you tell something at least? Yeah, I want to hear your voice. Add something, or you have to find the book now. Okay, all right. I'm just kidding. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, we have to ask this type of weird questions to the students because we don't see the students. Yeah. Suparno, want to add something?
Um, I feel like there's a there's a big connection to Swamiji's quote, "Arise, awake, stop not till the goal has been reached." I feel like it really brings the Gita's meaning down to earth for us people, and we were able to like reciprocate what it's saying.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, very nice. Anyone else? Anyone else? No. Okay. Kushan, you have to say anything?
Yeah, I feel like this verse 69 saying like how most people are like spiritually asleep, like they chase pleasure, success, and like materials, while the people who are like awake, um, they're like fully aware of spiritual truth, like they understand like the soul is eternal, and they're not like disturbed by materials.
Okay. Fair enough. Very good. All right. So yeah, it's 10:30 now. So let's do the continue. Let's finish it. Yeah. Okay. The next one.
Okay, so change of tune here.
Okay. Yeah. It's good. Aditya, will you be okay with this tune? The change of tune?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Because I know you prepared for the other part, and yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hopefully I'll be okay. So correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
No, no. That's no. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Go ahead.
अपूर्यमानम् अचलप्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमाप प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वद्गमायां प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमप्नोति न कामकामी अपूर्यमानम् अचलप्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमाप प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वद्गमायां प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमप्नोति न कामकामी अपूर्यमाणमचलप्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमाप प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वद्गमायां प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमप्नोति न कामकामी.
So in this verse, it reinforces what we were discussing about. And here Sri Krishna provides us another analogy. So here, apuryamanam, meaning ever being filled, achala pratishtham, meaning immobile and steady. And here Sri Krishna gives the analogy of how the ocean is always filled with rivers, but it always remains steady with its bounds. It doesn't grow bigger, it doesn't grow smaller, it has its own capacity and size. So he's comparing that by saying similarly that a person who attains to this peace, who is awake, he doesn't run madly after objects of desire, and he is not affected by the pairs of opposites that we have of pleasure and pain, because he is awake, because he understands that these are the unreal things. And despite all the added objects of desires in life, again, that person who has that peace, who is awake, understands that that's not real, and that what the true real, the reality of it is the Atman.
Very nice. Anything from anyone? Orgo, you want to add something? No? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Any question about this verse? Aditya, you want to add something?
No, I was just reminded. I believe it was in this chapter. The verse where it said, like a drop of the ocean, can allow us to see, what the entire ocean, like the essence of the entire ocean. I was just reminded of that verse, but I'm forgetting which one it is.
In this chapter, you said? Yeah. In this chapter, this is what you have a verse like that?
I believe it was earlier in the chapter, but I can't remember exactly which one it was. Oh, Titli?
Yes,
I think
Titli. Go
the
ahead.
verse Gita Didi is talking about is verse 46, but I'm not sure.
46 verse. Okay. Let's look at that. Buddhi yukta johati who wish. No, not that one. Yeah, one or two panisarvatu tavan sarvesh vedeshi brahmanusya vijanato. Yeah, this is kind of like, yeah, you can, yeah, but not the what Adita was talking about. But this verse is uh, kind of a very similar what you have in the 70 Titli. Yeah, it's a little bit of similar verse. Yeah, so yeah, it's like a Purnamada Purnamidam Adita you are talking about, right? Purnamidam Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate, right? So it's so one thing is in this, so all the verses like last couple of verses we have been the studying, the main teaching is the you to attain the peace you have to control your senses, right? That's what if you last line it says so santim apnuti no kamo kami. So santim apnuti no kamo kami. Whoever kind of like has the desires, they cannot attain the peace, right? So those who the senses are the mind, when the mind is running after the sense objects, unreal things, and it is impossible to get the peace. That's the main thing. All right. So you know what to avoid and what to keep. All right. Vishaye, Virak, and Ishware, Anurag. Both Ishware Anurag or Vishwaye Virak. If you can at least develop one, other one will be kind of like what? Will be developed already. Right? Thakur said if you go towards kind of like the east, you don't have to worry about how far, how much you left kind of like the west behind, right? You'll be away from the west when you are moving towards east. So you target one, depending on your nature. Some people are good at withdrawing, some people are developed. It's not good at withdrawing. Like I have the kamo. I cannot get rid of my desire. So how to become the desireless? Because Bhagavad Gita said desire gives you what? Anger. Because not all the desires will be fulfilled. At one point you will see that your desire is not fulfilling and you will develop the anger, right? So what's the solution then? And I cannot get rid of desire. So there is no way, Adita, Ashwari or whatever. Let's say, look at the 62nd verse. We still have some little bit time. So because we have only one last verse. Yeah, concluding verse. So 62nd verse, it says, Dayato Vishyam Pungsa Sangasteshu Pujayate, right? So Sangat Sanjayate Kamo Kamat Krodha Vijayate. So you start to see the anger comes from the basically the desires. So what would be the advice? Okay, to become desireless. Is it possible? Is it possible for everyone? Yes, that's the goal, to become desireless. Until and unless Mother said, নির্বাসনা না হলে ভগবান লাভ হবে না. Okay, until and unless you become desireless, নির্বাসনা বলতে বাসনা বলতে that's the desires of worldly materials. So Sri Ramakrishna gave a very very nice solution for that. Okay, He- have you are you familiar with this one? Have you heard about Ramakrishna's solution for the desires? No, of course you heard it. Yes, go ahead, Adita. You want to say? No. He says desires cannot be removed entirely. It's almost impossible. He gave you very nice the example of the Ashwata Bhikra. The remember Uddamala Madhu Ashwatanang, right? Ashwata Brikka. The tree Ashwata, it has kind of like unique kind of like the features. If you cut the roots, next day you can find the many roots there. So if you cut the desires right now, another desires comes. It's like a wave after wave. So what to do? Sri Ramakrishna said, okay, bring the desires as the servant of the God. Takshala, takshala. According to Ramakrishna's language, I'm just telling. Takshala, rascal. You know, what should I say? What should be the English, good phrase? Rascal, remain as like a slave of the God. Okay, because you and I cannot remove you, so remain as the slave of the God. দাস হয়ে থাকো, কামকে কি করো? দাস হয়ে থাকো, অর্থাৎ ঈশ্বরের দাস. So that's why it says the desires, if you have to have desires, desire to become a saint, desire to become the change, desire to become the true servant of the God. That's the dualism, kind of like in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. They said Krishna, they have the tremendous desires, and they call it lalasa. Lalasa means it's tremendous greed and desires they have. They have the greeds. Greeds for what? To get the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. That should be the greed. That's my greed, okay? That's my desires. What is the anger? How come Mira did that? How come I cannot do it? I will do it. That's my anger. Okay? So anger, you change the anger to attain the God. You change the greed to attain the God's feet, lotus feet. Alright? So nasanti mapnuti na kamokami. Here is the kamokami means not that kamo. Okay, not that desires Bhagavan was telling. This is the sense desires to the unreal things. Okay, unreal things. Okay, sense object. Because namo namo prabhu bhakyamunadhito, we chant it, right? Namo namo prabhu bhakyamunadhito means the God is beyond the sense and speech and mind. Okay, so anything you can reach with the sense, that's not the God. So that's why you can say sense objects. All right. All right, last verse. Oh, not last verse. Yeah, last two verses. Yeah.
Okay. Vihaya Vihaya Kamanya Sarvan Pumans
Vihayo kamanya sarvan
Charati Nispriha
Umangcharoti nispriha
निर्ममो निरहङ्कार
nirmamo nirahamkaro
ससन्तिमधिगच्छति
sasanti madigacchati
विहाय कामन्या सर्वान्
Bhavan Umangcharoti.
पुमांश्चारति निःस्पृहा निर्ममो निरहङ्कार स शान्तिमधिगच्छति.
So here in verse 71, Sri Krishna talks about attachment and kind of this idea of the sense of mind and the I sense. So here, vihaya means abandoning. Vihaya kaman yasarvan pumam charati nispriha. So here it's saying nispriha here is talking about without longing. So whoever has this abandoned sense of desires, he goes on to say nirmamo, without the feeling of mind, nirahamkara, which is without having the I sense, sashantim adhigachati, he attains peace. So here Sri Krishna is saying that whoever has abandoned these desires, and he moves without attachments and this idea of I and mine, he attains to peace because he is not bound to these sense objects. And without that bondage, he goes beyond and he attains this peace.
Aditya, you want to add something? Anything else? Okay. One word you can see there, pumang. Pumang means, here, pumang means purushu. So what does it mean, purushu? So purush means we call it like a masculine gender, right? Purusho. And yeah. But here in Sanskrit, purusho means what? The one lives in Puro. Puro is the city. What is the city? The body is our city. And who lives in there, Jiva, is Purusha. Because it lives in this body, we call it Purusha. So it could be female, it could be male, okay, whatever. Whoever living in a limited body and mind kind of like a limited the case, we call it Purusha. Yeah. All right. So the last, not the least verse, okay?
एष भ्रामी स्थिति पार्थ
So, Isha Brahmi Sthiti Partho
नैनं प्रप्यभिमुह्यति स्थित्वा श्याम् अन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति एष भ्रामी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनं प्रप्यविमुह्यति स्थित्वा श्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति.
Here in this verse, Sri Krishna kind of ties everything together and he gives the outcome. So here he says, Esha Brahmi Sthiti. Brahmi Sthiti means the state of dwelling in Brahman. Partha, O son of Pritha. Nainam Prapya Vimuyati. Attaining the state, they are not deluded. Sthitva Shyam. Sthitva Ashyam, meaning abiding therein. Antakalepi, meaning at the end of one's life. Brahma Nirvanam Richati, meaning they attain this oneness with Brahman. So here Sri Krishna is saying, this, O son of Pritha, is the state of dwelling in Brahman. Having attained it, one is no more deluded, By abiding in that state, even by the time of death, one is united with Brahman. So here, Sri Krishna is drawing the parallel between attaining Brahman even at the time of death, and having this idea that going past whatever Sri Krishna has said, the sense objects and being aware, these characteristics come later on, and that individual is not deluded even at the end of their life.
That's very important one. Exit, right? So even you could have this kind of like realization at the very end of the life. So people like general people like us, our prayer, fervent prayer is to at least at the time of departure, we have this kind of like realization. Even for a minute, for a second, if you have that kind of like realization, that the during the departure, you will be what? Free. All right. So you don't have to go through the anymore the the birth and rebirth cycle. All right. So you don't have to go through those things. Yeah. Even in the for a the last moment. So this is what it is like in রামপ্রসাদী গানে একটা সুন্দর গান আছে আমি ওই ইংলিশটা হয়তো এখন করতে পারবো না শঙ্করী হয়ে মাগো আকাশে তোমরা পেয়েছো কিনা জানা না নখেতে তুমি বুকে বুক শঙ্করী মানে কি ভালচার you know or what is shankari could be the eagle catch the fish তুমি মাছ হয়ে তুমি আছো we can meditate actually uh, Thakur suggested to meditate upon that kind of like on that song when you are meditating. You consider yourself as a fish. You are flowing. You are, the moving in the water, and suddenly a eagle came and catch you. And then what would happen? So it will poke the all the the jaws and everything, so and it will be bleeding, but still that that's the another rule, another form of the mother. If you can understand eagle is like a form of mother, then you will be in the peace. Right? Very, very nice way. Actually, one of the Swamiji from Ramakrishna order explained these words. Yeah, not Ranganathanandaji. Yeah, Ranganathanandaji mainly in his Gita's explanation is mainly he related with our contemporary politics and all these things to how to become a good human being with morality. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Anyone? Okay. It's very hardcore one. So we are done with the second chapter. And I don't know what you do after this. I will let you do. But one thing we want to remind you guys, we have to go with a kind of like assessment based on the chapter 1 and chapter 2. So you have to study. And also I would like to tell you guys, revered Swami Yogatmanandaji will be visiting us on January 24th. All right, January 24th, mark your calendar. And January 23rd is the formal date for the Saraswati Puja, right? January 23rd, if I'm not wrong. So probably we may not be able to run in the Dibbadam, but we are thinking about celebrating the Saraswati Puja on January 24th when Swamiji will be there. So one thing he requested, like last year you have done, prepare a kind of like talk about the Swami Vivekananda's teachings. All right. So I will send you the instruction. Maybe some of you will be interested to, speak about Swamiji's teachings, how it can you know, it has been helping your life to mold your life, okay, gear your journey, navigate your journey, right? So think about that. So January 24th, mark your calendar, okay? Swamiji will be there 10 to 12. He said he'll be there basically listen to you. So that's what, and one of the things we will do, we'll chant the Saraswati mantra. Remember Saraswati, the one mantra we used to chant. Right? Last time we did that, right? That's the one we will do. We have to. So we need some of the rehearsal for that. At least one day rehearsal. Okay. So I will talk to Adrita and Ashwari about this, and we will plan the rehearsal. Those who want to actively participate in the chanting of Saraswati mantra. Everyone will be participating, but if you want to do that actively, you know, participating it, then we can do some rehearsal, run a rehearsal kind of like session. Okay, I think that's my announcement.